Forward. What on earth do we mean when we talk about cultivating mindfulness? There's no question that mindfulness is one of the hardest things in the world for us humans to tap into consistently, even though it's not a thing, and even though we can taste it and recognize that experience of tasting in an instant, in any instant. The invitation is always the same, to stop for a moment, just one moment, and drop into wakefulness. That's all. Stop and drop, meaning drop into your experience of experiencing, and for even the briefest of moments, simply holding it in awareness as it is, in no time, or to put it differently, in this timeless moment we call now, the only moment we actually ever have. Luckily, if we miss this moment because we're distracted by one thing or another, caught up in thinking or in our emotions, or with the busyness of what always seems to need getting done, there's always the next moment to begin again, to stop and drop into wakefulness in this moment of now. It seems so simple, and it is, but it's not so easy. In fact, looked at one way, a moment of mindfulness with no agenda whatsoever other than to be aware is just about the hardest thing in the world for us human beings to come to. And it is even harder for us to string two moments of mindfulness together. And yet, paradoxically, mindfulness doesn't involve doing anything at all. In fact, it's a non-doing, a radical non-doing. And right inside any moment of non-doing lies peace, insight, creativity, and new possibilities in the face of old habits of mind and old habits of living. Right in that moment or any moment of non-doing, you are already okay, already perfect in the sense of perfectly who and what you are. And therefore, right in that moment, you are already at home in a profound way, far beyond who you think you are and the ideas and opinions that may so shape and sometimes severely limit your view of the larger whole, not to mention your own possibilities for experiencing that wholeness and benefiting from it. And most interestingly of all is the realization that there is no that moment at some other time except in thought. In actuality, there is only this moment for dropping in. None of this means that you won't get things done. In fact, when your doing comes out of being, when it is truly a non-doing, it is a far better doing and far more creative and even effortless than when we're striving to get things done without an ongoing awareness moment by moment. When our doing comes out of being, it becomes an integral and intimate part of a love affair with awareness itself, and with our ability to inhabit that space in our own mind and heart, and to share it with others who are also engaged in that way of being as well, potentially all of us. And none of this means, as is described in considerable detail in this series, that what you are experiencing has to always be pleasant, either during formal meditation practice or in the unfolding of your life. It won't be, and it can't be. The only reason that mindfulness is of any value is that it is profoundly and completely up to the challenge of relating wisely to any experience, whether it's pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, wanted or unwanted, even horrific or unthinkable. Mindfulness is capable of meeting and embracing suffering head-on, if and when it is suffering that is predominating at a particular moment or time in your life. We don't learn much of anything about non-doing in school, but most of us have experienced moments of radical non-doing as children. In fact, tons of them. Sometimes it comes as wonder. Sometimes it looks like play. Sometimes it emerges as concern for someone else, a moment of kindness. Another way to put it is that mindfulness is all about being, as in human being, and about life unfolding here and now as it is and embraced in awareness. Therefore, it takes virtually no effort because it's already happening. All it requires is learning to reside in your direct experiencing of this moment, whatever it is, without necessarily thinking that it is particularly yours. After all, even you is just a thought construct when you put it under the microscope and examine it. If you do, you may discover that who you think you are is a very small and at least partially inaccurate account of who and what you actually are. In an instant, you can recognize how large the full dimensionality of your own being really is. You are already whole, already complete, as you are, and at the same time, you're part of a much larger whole, however you care to define it. And that larger whole, let's call it the world, sorely needs that fully embodied and more realized version of you. Our wholeness manifests in everyday life as wakefulness, as pure awareness. Our awareness is an innate human capacity, one that we hardly ever pay attention to or appreciate or learn to inhabit. And ironically, it's already yours, conventionally speaking. You were born with it, so you don't need to acquire it merely to familiarize yourself with this dimension of your own being. Your capacity for awareness is more you and more useful than virtually anything else about you, and that includes all your thoughts and opinions, important as it is to have thoughts and opinions, as long as we don't believe them and cling to them as the absolute truth. And since the paradox is that all of us are already who we are in our fullness, this means that in the cultivation of mindfulness, there is literally no place to go, nothing to do, and no special experience that you're missing or are supposed to have. The fact that you are able to experience anything at all is already extremely special. Ironically, however, the truth of that is hardly ever recognized as we quest for that special something that always seems to somehow elude or frustrate our desiring. Perhaps that perfect meditative moment in your own fantasy of what meditation should produce if you were quote-unquote doing it correctly. There is nothing to acquire because you're missing nothing and lack for nothing, despite what your habitual patterns of thinking and wanting might be telling you in any given moment. You are already whole, already complete, already alive in this moment, already beautiful, just as you are. So no improvements are either necessary or possible. This is it. The only thing that we are missing is recognizing the actuality of life unfolding in this moment, in the form of you, in the form of me, in every dimension of that unfolding in the timeless present we call now, and realizing it, allowing it to be apprehended and thus made real in its fullness. There are no words for this, because words are merely, for all their power and beauty when strung together skillfully, elements of thinking about things, and thus once removed from direct apprehension. At this point, we enter the domain of pure poetry, where we attempt to use words to go beyond words, to convey what is not possible to say in a prose sentence. At this point, we're tapping into what one colleague tellingly calls implicational holistic meaning, much more akin to directly feeling something and knowing it in one's bones, in one's heart, way beneath the words and concepts we may apply to the experience later. Perhaps in the end, it is this capacity that makes us human rather than automatons, and it is precisely here that we intersect with the domain of embodied mindfulness practice. The mystery of awareness is that it is truly beyond words. It is soundscape. It is 6:42 a.m. in late June. Through open windows I am bathing in the sounds of birds I do not know, trills and whistles, warbles and clicks, calls and responses, short and long, some soon recognized in repeats, others not so easily distinguished again, all modulated, syncopated, melodiously and chaotically spilling into the air, filling the world with song under song, over song, within song, after song. It goes on in a clamor, moment by moment, ever new, ever exuberant, a cornucopia of sound spilling out everywhere. There is also the not-too-distant and unmistakably growing hum of traffic on a not insignificant artery flowing intently deep into the body of the metropolis toward the heart of the city from the northwestern periphery, and pouring out in the other direction under similar pressure. The occasional roar of a semi accelerating is discernible, but for the most part the impatient tire whirs and insistent engine purrs merge into one sound stream announcing that the world of human purpose and industry is waking up from its slumbers along with the birds. Delicious soundscapes, punctuated at times by the fluttering of leaves on the gigantic Norway maple behind me, so close to the house, and by sighing from the boughs of the hemlocks in front of me, caressed by intermittent gusts of gentle wind, all coupled with, just now, the conventional voices of dog walkers passing by in the unpaved street under those hemlocks. Now a siren sound is contributed, distinct, brief, not repeated, and now and again a bang from something heavy being dropped off a truck on the farm below the hill. There are also beeps from something big backing up somewhere. This soundscape is always present. It is always the same and always different as the minutes and the hours flit by. And always in each moment there are the birds' songs and occasional screeches. I cease thinking any thoughts about sources and give myself over to hearing. It is very much a bathing in sound, a sensuous luxuriating in pure sound and the spaces between them, in layer upon layer of sounds. Now they are simply what they are, no longer identified, no longer listened for in a straining, reaching sort of way. I simply sit here, moment by moment, receiving whatever is arising in the soundscape, not even inviting it to come to my ears, since it is always coming anyway, if mostly not really heard or known because the mind is elsewhere, preoccupied with something, anything at all, which can always include thinking about the origins of the sounds I'm hearing, or preferring some to others, having opinions instead of just hearing. In this giving myself over to the hearing, pure and simple, in these moments there is only the hearing. The soundscape is everywhere. It is no longer in the world. It is the world. Or more accurately, there is no world anymore, and no me listening, and no sounds out there. There are no birds, no trucks, no airplanes and sirens and ladders being put up. There is only sound in the spaces between sounds. There is only the hearing in this all of a sudden timeless moment of now, even as it flows into the next timeless moment of now. And in the hearing there is also the immediate knowing of sound as it is heard in its arising, in its brief or sustained lingering, and in its passing away. Not the knowing that comes with thinking, but a deeper knowing, a more intuitive knowing, a knowing that is somehow before the words and the concepts that clothe our knowings, something underneath thinking, more fundamental, the co-arising with sound of the knowing of sound, as just what it is before it gets dressed up by the thinking mind and evaluated by our naming, by our liking and disliking of things, by our judging mind. It is something like a mirror for sound, this knowing, simply reflecting what comes before it, without opinion or attitude, open, empty, and therefore capable of containing anything that presents itself. In this moment, the immersion is so complete that there is no longer any immersion. Sound is everywhere. The knowing is everywhere, within the envelope of the body and without, for there is no longer a boundary of any sort. There is only sound, only hearing, only silent knowing within an infinite soundscape, only this, only just this. That's not to say that thoughts do not arise. They do. It's rather to say that their presence no longer colors the hearing or interferes with it. It's almost as if the thoughts themselves have become sounds and are heard and known along with everything else in their arising and in their passing. They no longer distract or disturb, for in being known they tend to melt away, no longer proliferating endlessly. The knowing is sky-like, air-like. Like space, it is everywhere, boundless. It's nothing other than awareness itself, pure, utterly simple, It's also utterly mysterious, for it's not something that I am creating, but rather a quality not separate from being alive that sometimes emerges like a shy animal come to sun itself on a log in a forest clearing. It lingers if I am quiet and don't make sudden movements within the space of the mind. The clock before me now shows 8:33. In these hours, an infinite number of moments have gone by, and yet no time has passed. I feel anointed, blessed by this bathing, by this immersion in a soundscape that knows no beginning and no ending, by this miracle that is hearing, that is wakefulness, that is knowing. I wonder if there is any moment in which just this is not available to me. What does it take to hear what is always already here to be heard, punctuated and buoyed as it always is by an even greater underlying silence? I do notice later on that if I'm not careful, meaning grounded in awareness, as the day unfolds, within no time I might be hearing nothing for hours on end other than the roaring noise of the thought stream in my own head, no matter what is presenting itself to the ears. Meditating with a group of environmental activists on a rocky beach on Windfall Island, at the mouth of Tebenkoff Bay in the Tongass Wilderness in southeast Alaska, just off Chatham Strait and across from the snow-capped peaks of Baranof Island, none of us can but take note of how the humpback whales contribute hugely to the ambient soundscape of this pristine wilderness air as they come and go with the tides intrinsic to our being.